If you work with advanced custom fields in Elementor Pro and you really want to open up some of the things you can do, I'm going to give you 5 absolutely free plugins today that work with that combination of tools and opens up a whole range of different things that you can do. Many of these have been covered in different videos, and where applicable I'll put links to those original videos where I cover these particular tools in a little bit more detail, so if you want to check those out and find out exactly what they can do, then all that information is there available to you. So the first plugin we're going to take a look at is Dynamic Conditions for Elementor. Now this is one of those ones that I've used in a lot of projects. I've also used it in quite a few different video tutorials on this channel. Reason we kind of look at this is because this is what I would consider to be a fundamental tool that should be built into Elementor Pro, but currently we have no control over showing and hiding data if, for example, we've got empty fields. So let's just say we wanted to create a custom post type, and inside there we had several different fields that weren't mandatory. Well, the last thing we want to do is show empty field values when it comes to working with the template and when we put that information out on the front end of our site. Dynamic Conditions for Elementor makes the whole process of hiding things incredibly easy. Now that's just one simple example of how you can use it. So what we're going to do is going to quickly jump over and take a look at just some of the things you can do with this plugin. Now if you want to learn more, I will put a link in the description below where you can check out a much more comprehensive tutorial on using this particular free plugin. So this, if it piques your interest, go and take a look at that and get a lot more info on it. So let's just take a look at that one first. So Dynamic Conditions is one of those little plugins that when you want to do something really simple and straightforward, where you want to show something or hide something and use something to trigger it, it's a great way of doing it. So what exactly do I mean by hide something or show something and triggers and all those kinds of things? Let me quickly show you. Now jump over into WordPress, into the Elementor template builder or the theme builder. And I've created a blank template now, which would be a typical single post. So you'd have things like your featured image, you may have the post title, some metadata, all those kinds of things you'd expect to see. So let's set up a really simple condition. Let's drag and drop the featured image option in, and this will show us the featured image of the particular post we're looking at. But what if someone hasn't uploaded a featured image? What if that's blank? Well, we'd end up with a placeholder which would look a little bit rubbish inside our design. So we need to have an easy way of being able to show this only if there's a featured image uploaded. If not, we could get it to do something else. So with this selected, we come to the Advanced tab on the left-hand side, and under there we've now got a new entry called Dynamic Conditions. We click to open that up, and we've got a very simple interface. We've got the dynamic tag, in other words, what is it we want to check against? In this example, the featured image. How do we want to check against it? Are we going to show something or hide something if the condition is met? So you can choose whichever option you want there. Both will do fundamentally the same thing. It's just how you want to handle it in your specific situation. Next up is the condition, and finally we have the parse shortcodes and debug mode, which I'm not going to go into in this. What we're going to say is, first of all, we're going to set the dynamic condition, the dynamic tag. So we're going to select that. We're going to come down until we find the option for our featured image. So we go media featured image data. So we're going to click on that. Then we're going to set the condition. So we're going to say hide when condition is met, and then we're going to set the condition. So we're then going to say is empty. So all this basically means is if the featured image is empty, hide this particular container. And if we want to, you can see we can say hide only content. So this says if checked, only the inner content will be hidden, so you'll still see an empty section. But obviously that wouldn't be the best way of doing it in this particular example. So you could select that, and that would now hide the container part as well. So it's a very, very simple plugin, and you can use it to check against all manner of different kinds of data. So if I click to open this up again, just get rid of this, and we click to see the tags, you can see there is an absolute ton that we can check against, and then we can show and hide various different elements. The other thing that's very, very useful, and why I think this is incredibly powerful with advanced custom fields, is we can use it to check against ACF data. So let's just say you wanted to put a simple checkbox as part of your dashboard, part of your custom post type, and then if that's checked, it'll do one thing. If it's unchecked, it'll do something else. Well, this is the plugin that'll allow you to do that. We can reference those ACF fields, and then we can hide or show based upon whatever criteria we want to check against. So that's the first one I wanted to show you. It's incredibly useful. I use it in a ton of projects, and it's probably one of those go-to plugins that whenever I'm using ACF and I'm creating templates and theme files, I will always have this one installed because it's just so invaluable. So next on our list of invaluable free plugins for Elementor and ACF is Elementor Custom Skin. Now I've covered this and used this in quite a few different videos, so I will put a link in the description below to the latest one where I take you through and show you how to start using this plugin. Now another plugin that I think is massively invaluable when you're working with ACF and templates and all those kinds of things that you do is Elementor Custom Skin, or as it used to be known, LE Custom Skin. Now it kind of gives a bit of a misname really, because you're not creating custom skins as it were, you're creating a custom layout for your loop. So what do I mean by your loop? Well, if you take a look at this page, you can see we've got a couple of different vehicles listed. Now each one of these items is a template that's being used to output a specific vehicle's details. Then we've got that looped multiple times to show all of the vehicles inside this particular section. So in this example, 3. So what LE Custom Skin allows us to do is to create the layout for this specific loop item, just an individual item. The reason why I say this is invaluable when it comes to working with advanced custom fields is because, as you can see, we can reference ACF fields, which you can't do straight out of the box with Elementor Pro. So this is just a great way of doing it. Let me just give you a brief example of how this all works. Let's come back into the theme builder part of Elementor Pro inside our dashboard. You'll see we have a new tab called Loop. If we click on there, that's where we can create our loop items. So let's just go and take a look at that vehicle. So we're going to say the default vehicle loop. We're going to come in and we're going to edit this with Elementor. And you'll see what it is we've got a template that's just a layout for the data that's going to be used inside our loop. So we've got the picture at the top, the name of the vehicle, the manufacturer, the description, and the button that allows us to go through and view the details. So you come back up to our page, you can see there's the TT image, there's the name, there's the manufacturer, the description, and the button. So what we've done is we've created this custom layout. With this, like I say, we can, if we want to, pull in additional custom data. So if we wanted to, we could duplicate this. Once I've duplicated it, I can now come in and add in any data that I want. So I'll change from post terms and we'll come in and we'll choose something else. So we'll just delete that from there. And we'll come in and click on the dynamic tags. And we can then pull something else in from ACF, for example. So we'll say ACF field, click on our wrench icon and come and choose our details. And we can say, let's go for the vehicle price this time. So we're going to click on price. Come down underneath and we're just going to put price, put a full colon, and we'll put the pound because we're dealing with pounds in this example. And you see that now pulls in the value that we've pulled from that ACF field. So if I update this now, save and close this template file out, and come back to our test page, we'll refresh this, and you'll see now we've also got the price, which is ACF data pulled into the template design that we've created for our custom loop. And that really is all LE Custom Skin is really doing for us. But it gives us a ton of creativity because we can get in and create any kind of loop layout that we want and then use that in a multitude of different ways. So how would we actually reference this now we've created it? Well, let me just show you that before we close this section down. Exit out of this section. I'm going to come back into our saved templates area. I'm going to come back in and we're going to take a look at our theme builder. I'm going to come into our archives. We're going to open up what we would create for a default vehicle archive. So in other words, this is where we're going to output all the listings of the vehicles inside that loop. And you can see this is the same page we've got listed here, just inside Elementor. And all this is your normal archive post section, but we can choose the custom skin. So normally you'd see something like this, which would be the cards option. And you'd have 3 options: classic, cards, and full content. But once you install Elementor Custom Skin, you get a 4th option called custom. Click on custom. That now allows us to go through and choose any loop templates that we've created. So you can see the default vehicle loop is the one that we've used. That's now inserted and everything is laid out the way that we've set it up to be laid out. So you could, if you wanted to, use this in conjunction with the various dynamic conditions plugins that we've looked at already. And then you could use those to show and hide various pieces of data if that data is included in this specific listing. If not, then that will be omitted from these. So you can tie these different plugins in together to get a lot more creative in what you want to do. But fundamentally, that is what Elementor Custom Skin is all about. Now, if you're finding this information useful and you'd like to support the channel, please consider just clicking on that subscribe button, smashing the bell icon below to be notified every time new content is added. And don't forget to give us a thumbs up. All this kind of thing helps. So the next plugin we're going to take a look at is Dynamic Visibility for Elementor. Now, you may be forgiven for thinking that dynamic visibility for Elementor is pretty much just going to do the same thing as dynamic conditions, and to a certain extent there is a little bit of an overlap. However, I think the two plugins have different things, or enough differences in there to make them both worth considering based upon the project and what you need to do. So what I'm going to do is jump back over to the dashboard, back into the same template that I was working on earlier on. And as you can see, I've added a few other things in. We've got the title, we've got some metadata, we've got the featured image, and we've got the text underneath it. So the typical kind of things you'd expect to see in a normal post template. Now let's just say we wanted to hide or show various different things based upon different parameters than what we can do inside dynamic conditions. Well, let's take a look at what I'm talking about. Let's just click on this metadata information. I'm going to come out to the new tab, which is visibility. Now don't worry about this icon missing. I get that from time to time inside the dashboard. This will normally be replaced by a little eye symbol, so don't worry about that if you don't see it. It's still going to work perfectly fine. Hit the visibility option and you can see by default it's turned off. So we're not using the power of that particular plugin at all on this template. Once we enable it, we now get a range of new tabs available. Visibility is now being opened up. You can see we've enabled that. We've got the option to hide this block. It says hide this element on the front end until it's enabled. So we can hide that. In other words, the HTML code and so on is not going to be part. It's going to be hidden completely. You also then got the keep HTML. So if you wanted to have the HTML showing up in the code but not being displayed on the page, you could use that option as well. So have a little read of the documentation and see exactly what's going on there. What we're interested in though are the next 5 tabs: user role, device and browser, and so on. If we click and open up the user role, you can see we can choose what user roles can see the various different component parts of this particular template when it's being viewed on the front end of the site. So the first option we have is the user role, and we can click inside there. We can choose the various different user roles that are part of WordPress. So things like administrators, editors, authors, and so on. So you may want to show this to anybody that's logged in with the right login role, or you may want to show it to everybody else, your normal visitors that are not logged in, or they don't match that user role. You know, it's up to you how you want to do it. So you could use this inside your templates to do login and log out and stuff like that, and access to the admin dashboard for your administrators and editors, whereas your normal author and contributor and subscriber may not see those links. There's a million different use cases for where you'd want to use this. So you could choose a user role, and you can choose multiple user roles if you want to. You can also come in and do things like select a specific user. So you could target them either by their unique ID, their email, or their username. And you can do a lot of these different ones as well. So you can use commas to separate these out. So you may want to be very, very specific who can access this data or who can see this data. You can also filter it down using metadata. Now, don't worry too much, you can't see this on this. Let me just click and choose one of those. So you can do things like based upon user emails. So you could really fine tune who can see various different components of your site. And this is a good way of able to sort of semi-lock down various different parts. You can then do things like user meta status. You can see not set or is empty, is validated, or is a specific value. So there's various different ranges of what you could do on there. You can target IP addresses. You can target a referrer. So if you click on that, you can choose exactly where the user comes from. So if you wanted to do things like target specific adverts to users that came from Facebook, then you could do things like that. So there are a ton of different use cases for where and when and how you may want to implement this into your site design. Now that's just one of the options. That's just the user and roles. We can also come in and use things like devices and browsers. So if we want to, we could target responsive devices. So we could see desktops and TVs, or mobiles and tablets. We could target specific browser types on there. So if we wanted to, for example, Google Chrome, you can target that. Now, don't worry about this sort of visual glitch. I kind of get that. So I don't know if this is something specific to Google Chrome or something else. It's a little bit frustrating, but it's one of those things that I've seen this on various different plugins. So I'm thinking it's more to do with the browser than it is the plugin itself. But like I said, you can then target the devices, the browser that's being used, the mobile or desktop device that's being used. So you can see there's great ways to be able to tap into this to use it for all manner of different things. Dates and times, we can do that, a date from and to. So you may want to show one lot of advertising in the daytime, a different lot of advertising in the evening time. You can set the days of the week things to show up, the time from and the time to. Conditional tags, we've also got options in there. So it's like you can use the native WordPress conditional tags to actually do things as well. So you could target posts, site, page, archive, whole manner of different things. And finally, you've got the fallback. So if none of those conditions are being met, you could set a fallback content. So enabling that, you can choose what you want to do. And you can even use dynamic data inside here. So you can put a message in there, whatever you wanted to do. And the nice thing with this is you should be able to tie this into the options you could set up. So you could create a dashboard or create an options panel that you customize all these different messages, and then you can use the dynamic option to tie those in and target those inside your templates. So that might be a little bit beyond what we want to cover in this, but hopefully what you could see with this plugin is, in conjunction with dynamic conditions, we've got a ton of options on how we can show and hide different components, different parts of our site in templates, pages, posts. Massive amount of different things we could do with this. So it's an invaluable plugin when you really want to get in and get really granular in how you control your website layouts with Elementor. Now, next up, we've got two plugins by the same development company. Now, why are we using two different plugins? Well, I found that they are both incredibly useful, open up a ton of options, and have a lot of features in the free version. Now, this is something that I think is invaluable, but it's not just that. The developer is very open to suggestions, feedback, and is also very active in the WP Crew Facebook group. That's the Facebook group for the WPTuts channel. I'll put a link in the description below, so if you'd like to join that and become part of the conversation, please by all means do. There's no obligation, there's no charges, nothing. It's just a great group of like-minded individuals that are all looking for help, support, share ideas, and just basically a great place to hang out. Okay, so the first one we're going to take a look at is advanced post queries. Now what this does is it opens up the ability to get a lot more creative in how you filter and display your data. This is something that when you start to create more advanced websites is invaluable when you want to output the data in the way that you want and not just the default way that Elementor Pro or WordPress might kind of force you to without this kind of tool. So let's just jump over to the dashboard, take a quick look at this plugin and see what kinds of things you can do with it. Advanced Post Queries for Elementor is another one of those great little plugins that does one specific job, but when you need it, it does it really well. So what do I mean? Let's just jump back over into our example. This is where I've got the ability to edit the vehicles, but I need to filter this based upon the user that's logged in. So how can I do that? Well, with this plugged in, it's very, very easy. So if we take a look at the query section, we have a new option at the bottom that says Advanced Query Options. Click on there. We've got 5 different values currently: dynamic user, date and time, related posts, and so on. What I want to do is set dynamic user in this example. So in other words, it'll look to see who's currently logged in and then only display the content based upon that login detail. Once I click on there, you'll see this will update and only show me the vehicle that's associated with, in this example, the author being the current user. So I've set dynamic user, but I can then set a second condition to make sure that I'm getting exactly the user that I want. So you say the user is the current user, the author is the current user, the author is the current author, and so on and so forth. So again, you can query against various different values, and depending upon what you choose, you can see we can set a second one, a third one, a fourth one. We can really come in and fine-tune how we want to filter our data. And this is the thing, when you're working with advanced custom fields and tools like this, a lot of what you're going to do is filtering data. So the tools like this just make the whole process a lot easier and fills those gaps where you don't have these options inside Elementor Pro itself. So I would recommend taking a look at this plugin. It seems like a really simple plugin, and to use it, it is very, very simple. But it has a ton of options that just open up what you can do with your dynamic data. So the final plugin we're going to take a look at is Frontend Forms for Elementor. What does this do? It allows you to create front-end forms. In other words, you can allow users to upload data, add posts, custom post types, and things along those lines without giving them access to the dashboard of WordPress. This just increases your security, but also has a ton of other uses. And I recently released a video that shows you how to create a fully customized front-end dashboard using this particular plugin, the Pro version, because it gives you some more, but you could get away with the free version for probably 85 to 90% of what was covered in that video. So you don't necessarily need the Pro version. But that sort of expanded upon what you could do with this particular kind of plugin to create something truly unique and keep your end users, your clients and so on out of your dashboard. So as always, that link will be in the description below, and I would highly recommend you take a look at it because it really does open your eyes to some of the possibilities of using these range of plugins to create something truly unique for your end users and clients. Okay, so let's just take a quick look at this as an example. Now this was the custom dashboard that I created. As you can see, everything is laid out nice and neat and tidy, and it's a nice way of looking at things without going to the dashboard of WordPress, and can be a lot more user-friendly for clients. And there are various different aspects of what we've been covering with the different plugins to hide and show different things. But for this example, let's just take a look at the add post. So if I click on add post, that will take me into a front-end section that allows me to submit a new post, so I can do things like add the title, the content, upload media, set my featured image, apply categories if I want to. I could even use tags. Whole range of different things have been added into this particular plugin, which makes it invaluable. So with all those kinds of things set up, it's very easy now to be able to do this. And what you can do is you can set this as someone can post content. Like, for example, you may want to open this up to people to contribute content to your blog or something. You can have that uploaded. You could be emailed with some details to say something's been sent through to you, and then you can go through, take a look at it. If you're happy with it, you can approve it. If not, you can then just deny it from being posted on the site. All these options are available inside this plugin. Super, super powerful and cool. So let's come back into our dashboard now in WordPress and take a look at what we can do with this plugin and how easy it makes the whole process. Now I'm using the Pro version because this is a demonstration of exactly what can be done, but I'm not going to show you any of the Pro options. I will only show you what's available to you in the free version of this plugin. So this is the dashboard. This is the page we were looking at on the front end, but this is now open in Elementor. So let's just make sure we select this. This is our form area. So you can see we've got things like actions, what we want to do. We've got a range of things like we can edit posts, we can add new posts, we can do things like if we have advanced custom fields installed, we can link it through and use this alongside ACF and target all the various different components inside there. The beauty of this is that we don't have to manually one by one go in and add in the fields we want to use. This plugin is intelligent enough that it'll pull all that data in, and if we want to fine tune it, we can do exactly that. So this is something simple. What's the action? Create a new post. What's the submit action? Well, we can send an email once it's been submitted. How do we want to redirect after the submit? You may want to send someone off to a second page, say, thank you for your submission, we'll review it, blah, 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 blah. Or you may want to keep them on the same page. Well, those options are inside there for you. So this is where we can deal with the action. We're going to skip over the fields a section. We're going to jump down to post. So if you open up the post, you can see we can set the status of any new post that's been submitted. In this example, we set it to pending review, but you can set it to any of these options: draft, private, pending review, and published, so you get control over exactly what's going on. The new post type, you can see we've got post, page, and other things that may be installed. So like we've got Elementor installed, it's set up, say, Elementor library, for example. But you can see vehicles, which is my custom post type, so we could pull this into there as well. Then underneath, you see we've got things like the different fields we want to use. So the normal fields you'd have as part of a typical WordPress post: the title, the content, the featured image, an excerpt if you're using it, and things then like tags and categories and so on. So you can see in this example, I'm not using the post excerpt field, but I am using the title, the content, the featured image, and so on. The other nice thing about this is if you wanted to use ACF fields to possibly open up more control over the normal default WordPress fields, you can do that. So you can see we've got default featured image field, or we could use none and custom. If we wanted to use custom, we could start referencing things inside ACF. We're going to leave that set to default. And like I said, this is beyond what I want to cover in this. We've already covered a ton of this in the different tutorials. Now, speaking of ACF, if we come back up and close posts down and go into fields, you can see what we can do now is we can set up the title for this, or we can omit one completely. We can even set this up through dynamic tags. Then we've got field groups, or the ACF fields. You can see there are two options in there: field groups and fields. Field groups will pull in all of the ACF fields from a specific field group created inside ACF. Fields will allow you to go through and manually select which fields inside all of your ACF groups you want to reference. So you could mix various different fields in if you wanted to. So you can then see we've got things like submit post for approval, which is what we've got in the button. So we have control over almost every element in what we want to do with this particular form. We could even come down there and control exactly what happens with the email. So if we expand this out, you can see we can set the email name, we can set a to, a CC, and a BCC, from, all the things you'd expect to see. We can even do things like you'd normally expect inside WordPress, inside Elementor itself, where you can set the metadata. So there's a ton of options inside here, and I would highly recommend that you just install this plugin and just take it for a play to see exactly how it all works. But it is a very powerful plugin, opens up a ton of possibilities on the front end for form submissions, and if you want to go above and beyond that, the pro version adds even more, including the ability to go in and style everything the way you want. The free version doesn't allow you to style the form. You'd have to do that manually. So with that in mind, like I say, that's how we can use the ACF Frontend Form plugin. Well, there we go. That's 5 absolutely free plugins that expand what you can do with Elementor Pro alongside ACF. What do you think of these plugins? Are they new to you? Are they things you've seen and tried out yourself? Let me know in the comment section below. Now, speaking of the comment section, if you've got other plugins that you think are worth me taking a look at, drop links to those in the comment section so I'll take a look at them, and they could be added into a future video or have some content created on them. As always, all of the applicable links for everything we cover on the channel are all in that description down below. My name is Paul C. This has been WPTuts, and until next time, take care.